Surely the weekend to remember in Tampere, Finland.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 4th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't search. Match with Indeed. So, Florida Panther fans, what a memorable weekend for everybody involved, especially the 7 Finnish players between the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars of the 2 games that we saw over the weekend in Tampere, Finland, as the Panthers, they sweep the 2 games between them and the Dallas Stars. In just when you think about this and seeing the crowd with the amount of the sea of red and the sea of green, they're all to witness such outstanding hockey. And here to join me to break down more of these 2 games and the different activities all throughout the weekend over in Finland, he is my colleague here at the Hockey News, David Dwork. David, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Good to see you, brother. How's it going?
It's going well, especially with the teams doing well, 9-3-1 through 13 games, probably the longest road trip as far as mileage goes throughout the season, and 5 straight wins for this team. I mean, but really, we spoke about the activities with them being in Helsinki and then traveling to Tampere, and then just the amount of emotion there was in the crowd. I spoke about the sea of red and the sea of green, but also with the anthem, the US and the Finnish anthem, the stars and the red chant going at the same time, and then the second day being the violin, the one violin, the name of the artist, and then you think about the different NHL alumni that were involved in it. One of them being former Panther Asa Tikkanen in one of them, and then the other one being Jari Kurri, who Sasha Barkov wore the Jari Kurri jersey when he was going out celebrating with the cup. So just to start off there, just how much emotion did you feel that just watching that back home?
No, it was awesome. It was really cool to see. You could tell that everybody there, whether you were on the ice or that we were in the building, everybody kind of felt a part of what was going on. I think it was really cool how they were out there for the whole week. They had an opportunity to go to 2 different players' hometowns, whether it was Lundell in Helsinki or Barkov in Tampere. And, they got a real taste of Finland. There were, obviously there were a lot of stories about the different things they did, whether it was the saunas in different towns, whether it was walking into the arena wearing their robes, the different foods that they ate, the videos of the Matthew Tkachuk video of trying to pronounce different towns in Finland. It just provided a lot of really fun times. And then when you add to that the fact that they played 2 pretty good hockey games and came home with 4 points, you couldn't really have asked for it to go much better.
Yeah, and we'll get to more of the hockey stuff as far as the gameplay goes in segment number 2 here on the show. But also, one in the saunas, they said on the broadcast they bumped into Predators legend Pekka Rinne in one of the saunas. And also, I have a question here on my notes. When the Panthers return home after this and they get on the ice in a game setting, what would be your over under on the fans showing up to the game in bathrobes?
Oh God, whatever it is, I hope it's the under. Please, folks, don't come to the games in your bathrobes. I can't imagine that'd be a good look for many of us. It's also very cold there, so God.
Well, if they're wearing their casual clothing and then the bathrobes, then that's more acceptable.
Yeah, okay. So, fans just wearing the robes is like a communal coming together thing. That'd be pretty funny. But yes, over the clothes. Good call.
Yeah, so that's what I'm definitely expecting. I'd be surprised if we saw the number 0 there, but also just the different the community, the family aspect of it. I mean, Lundell playing in nearby Espoo, Nico Mikkola talking about 15 members of his family in the first game, 40 in the second there. And also the honoring of, I spoke about Yari Curry in earlier in the segment, but also what just honoring them around off the ice, and then the amount of there was about maybe 30 players in a little bit of a ceremony off the ice. And to think that we are witnessing a legacy being made in someone like Sasha Barkov, who had his a cardboard cutout in the store in Tampere. We're going to see this years from now in future global series of just guys surrounding Alexander Barkov, and we're witnessing just the overall play on the ice, game in and game out. So I'm also excited about the future of the global series.
Yeah, it's fun. Obviously, the NHL has a very positive vibe when doing it every year. We saw what happened in Prague to start the season with the Devils and the Sabres, and they've done this now for a while. And kudos to Paul Maurice for becoming the most successful head coach to play abroad. He's now 5-1, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully, it just kind of continues and branch out, because there's a lot of great hockey throughout the world. And as we've saw, they kind of put the spotlight on it this week with the Finnish players and both the Stars and the Panthers. It's really cool for them. They grow up in these communities and these cities abroad, and then they get to have the game come back to their home and they're playing. And it's just an awesome thing for everybody involved. So yeah, hopefully it continues.
Yeah, and then Paul Maurice also understanding the assignment when it comes to just knowing who these players are, knowing the calmness of just how they overall approach the game. And I said it even before the Friday game, just knowing about how the game is not Canada's game or North America's game. And then that video of him and Pete DeBoer in the coffee shop near the rink, and just talk about their time in Windsor. And just it's crazy how much you still learn about these two. Maurice being a captain to DeBoer's then Maurice was his coach. Maurice was his landlord. But also the greatest part about this, just about the understanding what it means, is putting all the Finns in the starting lineup, on both sides of it, including the Swede Gustav Forsling, whose country is nearby. Also, just knowing that the presentation of the starting lineup there, and the ovation as well there, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no surprise that Paul Maurice and his buddy Pete DeBoer, both of them kind of were on the ball with that without discussing it with one another ahead of time. They both, as you said, they both understood the assignment. And it was very, very cool. Look, that's the point of this, right? Like, you don't go all the way out there to not put those guys in the spotlight. And, as you said, to include Gus Forsling, it's another Scandinavian from a crossover in Sweden. And the Stars guys as well. It was cool to see Lindell and Hintz and everybody playing well. So for them to perform in their home soil and their home ice, it was really cool. I enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, and Barkov is staying on the ice after the first intermission to do a donation to the youth hockey programs out for the club that he co-owns as well, and for just also the conversation that they had there with Paul Maurice saying there was no good result in the Dallas Edmonton series, and then then Pete DeBoer trying to restrain himself from texting Paul Maurice in the middle of the Stanley Cup final on what he's looking for, what he's not looking for, and everything. So that's another thing for that when it comes to that. But on the other side of this ad break, we are going to discuss more about the play on the ice, where the Panthers came away with all 4 points here in the Global Series, where Paul Maurice actually tied Pete DeBoer with 103 wins as a head coach of the Florida Panthers. We are going to discuss more of those games next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, and you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the sports action in over 30 states, including California, Georgia, and Texas. And Prize Picks puts the members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So when my picks hit, I can get my money as soon as 15 minutes. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You think that Justin Jefferson will get over 83.5 yards next next week. So you could look at that and all on PrizePicks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And you can do that all on PrizePicks. Run your game. Also, this episode is brought to you by Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 300 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work and use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join over 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show can get up to a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, breaking down the global series with my friend David Dwork from the Hockey News and from the Hockey Show. And if you haven't tuned into this week's edition of the Hockey Show, there's a special segment of What the Puck where they do a Finnish edition of the show. So make sure to check that episode out with David Dwork and Roy Bellamy. So David, these two games that the Florida Panthers played, the first one being the road game for the Panthers here, but really for the Panthers, really the theme of the game was their ability to eliminate the Dallas Stars' speed through the neutral zone when it came to that, and also the fastest we witnessed the fastest goal outside of North America, with Evan Rodriguez getting the first goal 28 seconds in, and in both games, both of them off of redirections as well. So, and it's crazy on one of the goals that Sam Reinhart scored, the second one. What instincts from Evan Rodriguez to get behind the Dallas D off the faceoff to get it back up high, even though he didn't get a point in that one. You really truly felt his impact on that second Reinhart goal. Reinhart with 3 goals in the global series, wore that golden helmet, and the Tampere Twitter account also showed the photo of Alexander Barkov wearing it right before he came to the U.S. So just for that first game, the Panthers' ability to eliminate speed and fighting off the forecheck of the Dallas Stars really helped them really run away with that one.
Yeah, it was, the Panthers, I don't want to say doing what they like to do, because I don't think either coach was particularly happy with the way that the first game went. It was a little bit more wide open, a lot of rush opportunities. Granted, the Panthers did limit what Dallas likes to do. I do think that, Dallas got a couple late goals in that game that made the score a little bit tighter than it was. But overall, I think it was more of a wide open game than either coach really wanted to see. I think, as you kind of mentioned, the Panthers did a good job of capitalizing on their chances. Evan Rodriguez awakens now with Sasha Barkov back on his line. He went, like 3 weeks without a point after I think he had 2 points in the opener and an assist right after that. But now he's got goals in both of these Finland games, multiple points in the first. So maybe this is just an awakening for Evan Rodriguez on that line with Barkov and Reinhart. And yeah, I also noticed on that Reinhart goal, Rodriguez helping push the puck on the boards and cycling it up before it went back down and got up to Reinhart. And that's kind of what this team's all about. They play a 5-man game, and they're all kind of very responsible and aware of where each other are on the ice. And that's why they're able to play so well defensively and transitionally, and then offensive, so many talented guys. You combine that with guys like Rodriguez, who can score, fairly proficiently, or an Anton Lundell, who is perhaps having this breakout year that we've been wanting to see from him for the last couple of seasons. So right now it seems to be all clicking for the Panthers when you combine that with them getting healthy. Barkov's back, Nosic's back. So good time right now for the Panthers.
Yeah, and also on that first Barkov goal with Evan Rodriguez going up the right wing, all the defense drawing to him, and then the awareness of Sam Reinhart to just quickly touch it back to Barkov as he's coming with speed as the trailer there. So that's another thing. And you mentioned Tomas Nosek, his first set of games for the Florida Panthers, didn't lead the penalty kill time. I mean, that was more like Anton Lundell at Toulouse-Thurinien for them. But it's crazy because Paul Maurice spoke about how he's not going to put so many minutes on Sasha Barkov on the penalty kill. But hey, the time on ice says a lot different for the Panthers, only giving up 1 power play goal against in the 2 games for them. and also Mackie Samoskevich getting on the board once again, but also the knowing that for AJ Greer, he scored in the second game right off the draw, off of no sex draw, but also in the goal that Mackie Samoskevich scored to make it 5-2 at the time for the Panthers. The Greer's awareness to get the stretch up, knowing that Mackey's not going to be offside, and to get that puck and then to shoot it from distance, which Jake Ottinger, it was a little strange with him giving up goals from distance without screens. I mean, there were a few redirections, especially in the first 2 goals in the second game. But really, well, that was off to Smith, excuse me, on the second game. But for the Panthers and getting goals of all kinds for them, I mean, the Panthers were learning won in so many ways throughout through these 2 games.
Well, I think it's part of what we've seen and how they've succeeded over the last couple of playoff years is that they can play a lot of different styles. They can score in a lot of different ways, and they don't really need to match up with the team per se. They're going to come out and play their style. And if the game isn't inducive to them playing that grinding, checking style, if something opens it up, they've got guys that can work around that. They've got enough skill. They've got enough grit. It's just a well-formed team. And you take into account that it's all good people that are willing to put in the work and do whatever it takes. The whole no egos thing, what Bill Zito and Paul Maurice have done, it's just pretty spectacular. And right now the Panthers are one of the, if not the, premier team in this league right now. That's what they've been built up to be. How long it lasts, we'll see. But they've got a lot of this core locked up for the next several years. And a lot of guys are playing in their primes right now. And then they've got young guys. You mentioned Wendell. You mentioned Mackie Samoskevich. So it doesn't really feel real when you think about the first 25 or so years of this franchise, but what they've done the last few years, it's pretty spectacular. And right now, times are good.
Yeah. And also let's not forget that Sam Reinhart got a goal shorthanded, his 3rd of the season. I mean, last year he got 5, and we're 13 games in, and we're already seeing 3, both the first 2 coming against the Boston Bruins for them, and also for the second game. Also for Dallas, they a little bit of a struggle going into the second game, at least roster wise. No Tyler Seguin, no Niels Lundqvist in their lineup, but also picking up the physicality and knowing that, hey, these are 4 important points. I mean, even previewing the global series, I said, okay, 7-3-0 for the Dallas Stars. You would think they're first place in the Central Division, but no, there's a Winnipeg team that's firing off on all cylinders to start. But also a scary moment in the second game where Nate Schmidt got boarded by a former Panther, Mason Marchment, and at that time it was still 1-0 at there. But for the Panthers, the ability to still fight through these games, go into the third period 2-2, and then that goal by AJ Greer really made the difference there. But also Spencer Knight, steady in net. I know goalie wins aren't the be all end all, but in 4 starts he has 3 wins for him, and also the ability to calm down after 2 goals against in 34 seconds. So that's another thing for the Panthers on just how they're able to still never lose their composure throughout these, even when the opposition gets quick scores.
Yeah, I thought that second game felt more like a traditional Panthers type game, a more gritty, grimy type Panthers win. And that's what we were expecting after the first game. Like, yeah, you play a game like that with 2 teams, that Florida and Dallas, that want to play more defensive. They want to play, they want to grind you down a little bit. The second game was going to feel more like a playoff game, and it did. And that's kind of what you see from this Panthers team. It's not, the Barkovs, the Reinhardts, those guys are going to get theirs, but then it's an AJ Greer coming up with the big goal at the end of the game. It's Nate Schmidt's inspirational punch swinging exhibition that he put on after that happened with Marchment. That he just woke, is like ding, so that was kind of cool to see as well. But yeah, no, that's the beauty of this team. Like I said, they can kind of beat you in a lot of different ways. And maybe Dallas thought, all right, they got us a certain way in game 1. We're going to reel it in a bit. And the Panthers, that's their wheelhouse. So it didn't surprise me at all to see game 2 go their way, especially, as it was tight heading in toward the third period. That's their comfort zone. And that's, they've had the last 2 playoff years to really sharpen those skills. So now it's just a matter of, as Paul Maurice often says, honing these skills, tightening things up, getting to where they want to be mentally so they can carry this type of hockey throughout a season and into the playoffs.
Yeah. And for the Panthers, it now they are getting some much deserved rest as now they won't. We are just a few days away before they get on the ice in a game setting, even though they did hit the ice earlier today for them back in South Florida. But on the other side of the break, we are going to discuss more of what's coming for the Panthers, a little bit of just overall the road trip, and also some the Panthers had some special guests in their locker room after the game, and also ate at a pretty iconic Finnish restaurant after as well. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Rewards. And listen up, renters. If you feel like you're stuck in a loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into air, it's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Okay, and Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built Rewards roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your point towards a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Earn points by paying rent right now, and when you go to joinbuilt.com/lockedonHL, that's joinbilt.com/lockedonHL. Make sure you use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonHL to start earning points with your rent payments today. Also, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to take on the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Third and final segment here on this Monday, November 4th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, here with David Dwork of the Hockey News to break down more of this global series. And as the Panthers swept the Dallas Stars in both of these games, came out with all 4 points. And David, looking back at everything for this memorable road trip for the Panthers, where it's not only just Finland, it's not just it's what happened, everything in between, where you get to where you go to West Point, and then on top of that, the cherry on top, the icing on the cake, 5 wins and all of that. And the Panthers haven't even gone to the White House yet, which we are expecting based on the schedule, with them playing the Capitals on February 4th, maybe February 3rd or 5th appearance there. So keep an eye out on that. But also, David, after the game in the locker room, the Finnish president, Alexander Stubb, and Prime Minister Petteri Orpo was in the Panthers locker room, at which the president, Stubb, his dad was the head of European scouting in the NHL. So that connection between Finland and the NHL is similarly to what we spoke about earlier. It's just, once again, creating that great relationship between the NHL and Finland to continue going back there.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool moment, I think, for not just the Finnish, well, obviously a big thing for the Finnish players, but everybody kind of felt the weight and the gravity of that moment, and everybody, was standing in the locker room. Everybody shook his hand. It was kind of cool, and as you said, it was the icing on the cake, if this is the right term to use for that, but it was a very nice kind of full circle way to bring the whole road trip, but particularly the part in Finland, bring it to a close. Obviously, getting the 4 points, that's the icing on the cake, I guess, when you think about all the experiences they've had. But I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm sure it was very, very special, particularly for Barkey and E2 and Anton and Nico, and for Tuomo Rutu on the coaching staff as well. I'm sure that was something that they're all going to carry with them for a long, long time.
No doubt. And then getting some wings at this place called Hook, as if you are looking at full screening myself, that's the green screen of one of the restaurants from one of the chains there over. So I gotta try some Finnish wings one day if I ever get a chance to go over there. But really, I know in South Florida we've seen the Heatles for the Miami Heat, but it really feels like that Beatles vibe for the Florida Panthers that's going on with them right now, where a politician is coming and wanting to shake your hands, and then you're known on a first name basis. I mean, that is something special there.
Yeah, well, hockey is very, very big in Finland. So even though these guys don't play, in their native country, the hockey fans over there keep a very, very close watch on the Finnish players who are playing pro in the NHL and overseas, and anybody that really makes the trip over. So for the biggest Finnish players, some of them being, the Sasha Barkovs, the Rope Hints, to have them come over and play in their home soil, in the biggest league in the world, obviously with the president being there and everything, it got a lot of attention. And that's just awesome. I think it's really cool for everybody involved.
And now turning the page to the Panthers, 9 of their next 12 in Sunrise. And don't blink now, but Sam Reinhart is tied for the league lead in points. And I know Cale Makar and Kirill Kaprizov have played less games than Sam Reinhart, but the fact that also the Panthers have been able to just continue their winning ways in a little bit of a stretch with Sasha Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk not being out. 8 games for Barkov, 6 for Tkachuk. And then when you're looking at 9-3-1 through 13 games, I mean, even with the Tampa Bay Lightning, if they win their game in hand, they would still be 3 points behind the Florida Panthers. I mean, the Panthers have truly created room for error here. I mean, yeah, you don't want to see a little bit of a slump, but at the same time, these are the ebbs and flows of a season, regardless of which hockey team you look at the 32. But man, you can't make there's that saying, you can't make the postseason in the early portions of the season, but you definitely can get yourself out of the postseason picture. And the Panthers, that's the great thing about all of this, is just and I think it was Nick Alberga who tweeted this. The Panthers won the Stanley Cup and they got better. ... So what do you think when you see 9-3-1 through 13 games?
I think that's the system working, is what is it's Paul Maurice implementing this style of hockey that it's tough in the playoffs, right? Teams don't want to play that playoff style in the regular season. Teams don't want to have to go, their defensemen are getting the crap kicked out of them below the goal line. Like, Florida's wearing teams down. It's tough hockey. And to see that it's just kind of built and continued to succeed over the last several years, it's really cool. And that's what you want as a hockey fan. This is your team, right, Panthers fans? This is what Paul Maurice and Bill Zito have built. And now they're mastering it. And they're able to survive stretches without Sasha Barkov, without Matthew Tkachuk. They're able to go on these crazy, insane road trips where they're going 1,000 miles here or there and still find ways to win hockey games. This is the Mecca. This is what you want toward. You combine that with the fact that, behind the scenes, they've got this amazing new training facility where the players can have anything they want. They treat them well contractually. Bill Zito has given these guys very good contracts, and he builds them in a way where they get their money early and often, as opposed to having to wait throughout the season. It's just smart. It's just good business. And right now the Panthers are reaping the benefits of it. So it's just a great situation, Mondo.
Yeah, and when you think about the Panthers wearing teams down, and you think about even in that third period of the first game, I mean, Panthers are up 6-2, and then you see Dallas still peppering shots. You know that at that point, when it's a big lead, you're still rolling the 4 lines. You're still trying to not create anything down the middle defensively, and still force them to the outside, win the board battles. Milk a little bit of time off the clock by, even if you just flip the puck out of the zone and still get reset, get your change, because it's not the long change period for them. So that's another way for the Panthers and their ability to just go into shutdown mode. And it's crazy. I mean, I know it's too early to call that the Panthers will clinch home ice in the first round, but with the round 1 projected to start April 19th and 20th, it's great how Disturbed is going to kick off that weekend with that concert right before. So it's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great setup right before. But hey, just under 70 games to go. So that's the crazy part. As us watching this, it's just we still have that little bit of a wait, but at the same time, this is what we could appreciate of the build that's going to continue. What the Panthers might need at the trade deadline, because the Panthers aren't going to be selling the farm too much to bring guys on the roster, because penalty kill and the power play are in the top 10. The Panthers are getting their goaltending. So really, it's not a time where Bill Zito is overreacting and saying you need this and that for their roster.
No, they're pretty well set. They're as deep as you could ask for. They're happy with the way the bottom 6 is playing. And granted, the bottom 6 hasn't really been a complete bottom 6. Just now they're getting Thomas Nosek back in there. And Paul Maurice said after, I think it was the first game in Dallas, or in Finland against Dallas, that he's not trying to evaluate in that hardcore yet because he's just getting acclimated to it. So it's going to take a little bit of time. That being said, as long as the status quo stays intact and, they don't suffer any major injuries, they've already had to navigate some minor ones. There's no reason to make any really moves at all to this roster. You might, if you can add, a little tweak here or there, if you can bring in a Vladimir Tarasenko type player for a mid-round pick to bolster your playout, you might see moves like that. But there's, the way this team is made up, why would anybody mess with this? It's working perfectly right now. So as long as they can stay healthy, maybe Zito flips an asset or two to try to, bolster up a little bit more for that playoff run. But really, they're pretty set right now. You've got to be happy with it.
Absolutely. And the Panthers, like I said, under 70 games to go, it'll be great to see. It'll be interesting to see how he evaluates this portion of this Florida Panthers team going forward. But David, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Panthers wrapped up these 2 games in Finland, the 4 points, and now we get to see this team be home for a little while. So with a lot of Saturday home games, a Saturday home game every week going forward in this next month. So tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yeah, thehockeynews.com/Florida for all the written hockey coverage, on social at David Dwork, DWORK, on Twitter and on Instagram. And then my weekly show with Roy Bellamy, The Hockey Show, on the Dan Le Batard networks, everywhere you download your podcast. It's on YouTube. So check us out.
Awesome, David. Thank you so much. And I will see you soon, my friend.
All right, brother. Be well.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with David Dwork, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.